So in the last video, we asked what's the difference between if your teacher says A versus if your teacher says B. And it's pretty clear that if your teacher says A, that it says that you need to do both of these to get the A plus, versus this one says if you do just this one or this one, you will get the A plus. Okay, so this is a stronger set of conditions than this is, right? So we discussed those words, and or. And so, in other words, we ask, this is supposed to say, let's look at and. So we ask, if statement A is true and statement B is true, what about the statement A and B? In other words, if your teacher says this and you get 90% and you do all your homework, will you get the A plus? And the answer is yes, according to what the teacher said. On the other hand, if you get 90% on the final, but you don't do all your homework, is this necessarily going to happen? And the answer is no. So the only time it's necessarily going to happen according to the teacher's promise is if you do both of these. On the other hand, if you do just this one, just P, that is, you just get 90% on the final, but you don't get this, then according to the teacher's promise, do you get an A plus? In other words, is this true if just one of them is true? Will this whole thing be true? Therefore, this will be true. Therefore, you would get the A plus if just P is true. So if you get 90% on the final and your teacher says this whole thing, do you expect to get an A plus? Yes, because according to the teacher's promise, the teacher said if you do this, you should get the A plus, or if you do this. So if just this one is true, then this will also occur. In other words, this part, the whole thing is true if just this is true. This whole part is true if just this is true. But this one, in order for this whole part to be true, remember we say that if this part is true, then this should happen, or this code should happen, right? So, but what makes this part true? In order for this part to be true, P and Q both have to be true. Whereas to make this part true, only P has to be true or only Q has to be true. Of course, if they're both true, it's still true. That is, if you get 90%, if you do 90% on the final project and you do all your homework, then of course, if the teacher says if this or this, then you get an A plus, of course you'll get an A plus if both of these are true. So that's what this table is. So it says what? For and, the and statement, the only time that it's guaranteed to be true is if both A and B are true. Then the whole thing is true. Whereas for the or one, if this one is true, then the A or B part is true. Remember, I'm evaluating this here, right here. And we're saying when this whole thing is true, then you get the A plus. So, but what does it make? What do we need in order to make this whole thing true? To make this whole thing true, we only need one part of them to be true. That is, you only need P or you only need Q. So, on the other hand, to make this whole thing true, you have to have both P and Q true. So that's what it says. In order to make A and B true, you have to have both these true. Otherwise, if only one of them is true, or none of them are true, then this is not true. With the or, though, if one of them is true, then you get true. If one of them is true, then you get true. If one one of them is true, you get true. Both of them are false, then that's the only time you get false. Okay, now they talk about XOR. That just means in the English language, if I tell my son, you can go to the amusement park or you can go to the movies. So I say you can go to the amusement park or the movies. That's really not clear what it means because did I say you can either go to the movies? I'm sorry, you can either go to the amusement park or the movies? Or did I say you can do both? It's not clear. So, but in logic, we want to be clear. So if we want to say only one or the other, we use this symbol XOR. Whereas this one, either both can be true. In other words, you can go to the movies and the amusement park, and you will not have disobeyed me. Whereas if I use this symbol, I'm saying you can only do one or the other. So in English, the word or is not clear which meaning, which we mean, this one or this one. You can see they're different. Okay, and then A. I'm sorry, not A. So not A. So if A is true, false, then not A is true, of course. So in other words, if I say today is Monday, if that's false, then of course saying today is not Monday is true. And so that's the way this one works.